We're drawing a crowd.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Breezy Point Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I will call the meeting to order and ask for approval of last month's minutes.
I can't make the motion, I wasn't
So
here.
you weren't here.
I move they be approved.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No.
Good? None? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passed. City Council Liaison Report, Councilman Maroney.
Our meeting happened so long ago, which was last night. Some items that the P&Z Commission may want to know about is the city is we are selling 5 lots by the PLCC to the PLCC for the amount of $100, but they will also be combining the lots, cleaning them up, putting trails in there, and making a $10,000 donation to the city to repair and fix the dock at the public landing. The city council is also submitting for an RFP for an engineering firm. We're not displeased with who we have. We're just making sure that we have the best value for our dollar. And then we've also accepted the feasibility report on the road construction to happen on Osawatomie Road. This is a road project that was in joint effort with Ideal Township. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has anything.
Any questions?
No.
If not, I'll move to our next agenda item, which is open forum number 1. Would anyone like to speak during open forum number 1? You would approach, if you would like to speak, if you would approach the podium and microphone and introduce yourself. Okay, we'll close open forum number 1 and move to a public hearing on a conditional use permit application. And I will open the public hearing and ask the applicant to come forward and make their presentation.
Name Brent Siebert, and basically the log shop out of town, if the sale did go through, I want to have a conditional use permit for living quarters and loft.
Okay. We have some materials in our packet. Any questions at this point for the applicant on the application?
No.
Are you going to still use part of the loft for display or anything too?
Probably not, there'd be enough room down below.
Any questions?
One,
Okay.
who's doing the construction work?
I'd hire probably Whispering Pines.
And I assume there's gonna be heating, cooling up there, because it's upstairs loft. I couldn't see it in the.
There's an existing furnace in the log shop retail area, separate from the garage area. So we tie into that. Force heat.
Okay, thanks.
Tracy?
No questions.
Michael?
None.
Okay. Thank you. We might have a question along the way. Staff review. Jerry?
Again, the applicant is Brent Seifert. The property address is 31056 Edgewater Farm Drive. The property is currently zoned commercial and it is currently used what we would call the log shop. The request is to construct residential living quarters in an existing loft in the existing building. It's currently a 90 by 50 building with a showroom and a mezzanine. I think the request is to use the mezzanine as residential living quarters. The request is an allowable conditional use in the commercial zone. I won't go through all the conditions for a conditional use, but I would say that the applicant has filed the appropriate CUP. He's paid the appropriate fee. The notice of the hearing was sent to all property owners within 350 feet, and it was published in the newspaper. The public hearing is being held as we speak. Staff would recommend, if it is approved, to have some conditions on the conditional use permit. One condition would be the conditional use permit shall expire if not utilized by October 1st, 2020. It may be extended by request for 1 year. Building permit must be obtained. Residential quarters to include a finished kitchen, bathroom, bedroom. Certificate of occupancy issued prior to habitation. And the manufacturing, continued rock engraving and concession equipment storage would be also included in the conditional use permit.
Thank you. Any questions of Jerry? Okay. Is there any public input? Again, if you would like to speak, please approach the microphone and podium and introduce yourself. If not, I will close the public hearing and move to our next agenda item, which is official action on the application. We have a staff recommendation, and I would entertain a motion on that recommendation.
I move acceptance of the recommendation and the issuance of the variance.
Have a motion.
I'd second it, with the 5 conditions that have been listed, or however many it is, conditions that are there.
Well,
Is that acceptable?
no, certainly, I
Okay.
thought that was,
That's kind of what you said.
Jerry?
kind of what you said.
Just a point, I believe his motion was for a variance and it's actually a conditional use.
Conditional.
Okay, well,
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I only had one question that's not going to be rented out, I'm sure. It's commercial, I suppose you could rent it anyhow, couldn't you? Answered my own question.
Okay. Peggy?
I don't see any issues.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion passed.
I thought it was easy.
Next on our agenda is a public hearing on a conditional use permit, and I will open the public hearing on that application and ask the applicant to approach the podium and the microphone. Introduce yourself.
Jerry with West Hanson Builders. So basically, we're looking to build a detached garage in this area above it.
And we have material in our packet. Any questions for the applicant?
There isn't an existing garage on the house presently, right? Or there is a small one?
There is.
There is. So that's not a, of course, that's
It's total amount, right?
total amount, right?
For accessory buildings, total amount? 2 buildings?
Oh, okay. That's all I got.
Larry?
Nothing right now.
Tracy? Okay. Anything else that we need to know?
No, I guess, other than the height
What we
is
have.
the biggest issue.
Right. If there are no other questions, Jerry, would you provide us a staff review?
Sure. Again, the applicant is West Hanson Builders on behalf of Richard Hardy. The property in question is 1172 Old County Road 39. The legal is Lot 5, Block 1, Gagne Addition. And the property is zoned R2, medium density residential. The appropriate code is 153.032 and 153.044. The applicant is applying for a conditional use to construct an accessory structure 15 to 20 feet in height, which is an allowable conditional use in the R2 area for accessory structures. Also, because there's an existing accessory structure on the property, he also needs a conditional use to exceed the 1280 square feet of total cumulative accessory structure.
Is that 1,600?
You're at 16.
Isn't that what it is though? We're under 16.
1,600 is a
No,
conditional.
you're actually at 1496. It's covered as part of this process anyway. The property is 1.3 acres. Again, it's an allowable conditional use in the R2 area. The applicant has filed the appropriate CUP. The applicant has paid the appropriate fee for the application. Public notice of conditional hearing was published. Notification of all property owners within 350 feet was given. We are holding the public hearing as we speak. And if the conditional use should be granted, we would recommend that there be some conditions put on it. That number one, that the height not exceed 20 feet in height. And then I should say that the height is measured to the midpoint of the roof. The accessory structure to be used for personal use only. No commercial use of the structure or property and home occupation is allowed without amending the conditional use. Accessory structure color to match the siding of the principal structure. Accessory structure color to match the roofing of the principal structure. Conditional use to expire October 1, 2020, but may be extended for 1 year. And the location of this structure shall conform to the site plan submitted.
Questions of Jerry?
No.
Peggy? Larry?
Does the deck in the second floor count in the square footage for the 1,600?
We wouldn't consider that as part of the structure. That would be accessory. I mean, it wouldn't be part of the structure under the roof.
Okay, but the loft would be.
Yes.
So does that count in the 1,600?
We're just looking at the footprint of the building itself.
Okay, that was what my question was. And it only does count the footprint.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I had.
Tracy?
No questions.
Michael?
No questions.
Okay. Thank you. Any public input to this application? So please approach the microphone. If not, I will close the public hearing on this application and move to our next agenda item, which is official action on the application. We have a staff recommendation with conditions. I would entertain a motion.
I would move to accept the conditional use permit with the restrictions that we have placed at the end, the 6 restrictions.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion.
No.
Roger? Peggy?
No.
Larry?
We'll go back to Jerry again. On Now, if you're buying or selling your house, whatever it is, and you have finished square footage, whether it's on 1 floor, 2 floors, or 3 floors, that all counts in the square footage of a house. How come it wouldn't count in the square footage of an accessory building? Is that inconsistent?
Yes, most accessory buildings don't have 2 stories in them, number one. And why it's that way, I don't know,
But it is.
but it is.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Tracy?
No questions.
Michael? Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same? Motion passed. We will move to the next item on our agenda, which is a public hearing on a variance application. I will open the public hearing on that application and ask the applicant to approach the microphone and podium. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Scott Grupa. I'm here with my wife Melanie, and we are asking for a variance on the size of lot. It's R2, requires 15,000 square feet, and what I have is 10,128. This is kind of a continuation from last month's meeting, and I come with a little more ammo because I bought the lot next door, and that more than doubled my size. I came in last month very confident that this was going to go through, and I was surprised with the negativity that I received. And but I was fortunate enough that the next door neighbor agreed to sell me the property. Now that's it. There's no more property. There's none to the left, none to the right, none in front, none in back. I can't buy anymore. So if you turn me down today, then it's just the next step. Let's see here. I'm just going to give you a little handout of what I'm going to talk about. And I hope I get enough copies today. Thought there was less people here last time.
I wasn't here. I should get 2.
Okay, well, I can't blame you then, Kevin. First of all, a little background about me. I'm a mortgage banker. I've been doing that for over 20 years. I'm very familiar with real estate. I don't want to say real estate law, but I do understand the rights of property owners. Secondly, I'm a real estate broker in the state of Minnesota. I don't practice selling real estate. I mainly use my license for real estate research. Before that, I was a custom home builder, building about 10, 12 homes a year. I did that for 10 years. My family came from the plumbing business, and that's how I got into construction. And from there, I moved into the mortgage business. And the reason I'm bringing that point up is because when we talk about building on top of a hill or into the hill, I know construction. I know what a walkout lot is. I know what a lookout lot is. I know how to build a home. Okay, now we're building a single-family home, and this is for our personal use. I know there was a rumor that went around before the last meeting that I'm building this for a vacation rental. I never had intention to have this as a vacation rental. I know where the rumor came from because I only told one person in Breezy Point. And that makes it a rumor because I didn't tell anybody else. My family I didn't even say that to. But anyway, moving on. It's for our personal use. The lot size is less than what the city requires, but it's not supporting an on-site septic system. And I think that's a huge point, because I think when they made the lot sizes bigger, that was their target. The target was to get these septic systems off these small lots, because they're failing. I have city sewer available. The home size that I'm building, it's in line with the ordinance. I'm not trying to do anything smaller. The impervious coverage meets the maximum. I'm actually less than that. The front and side setbacks are in line, but I am asking for a rear setback. And I'm asking for a rear setback due to the property's unique rear property line. And if you see that sheet I have behind, the first one, that is the survey, and I thought I had one right here. And there's a little orange diamond in there. That's the part that protrudes into the lot that's stopping me from meeting 30 feet. I'm asking for 23 feet. Most of the house is meeting, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of the house is meeting the 30-foot setback. The golf course on the back side, they have to have a 40-foot setback. If for some reason that wasn't a golf course and a Target or something came in, they would have to have a 40-foot setback. And their 40-foot setback would be basically from my corner lot lines and not that point. So I think in the whole scheme of things, that little piece, I'm not asking for the golf course to give me anything. I'm just saying I need to build closer because I need to have a 26-foot deep structure. The lot is smaller than actually required in today's ordinance. But if you look at the surrounding areas, I've got a condo to my south, I've got a condo to my east, and those properties are a higher ratio from lot to unit than what I'm doing. I mean, it's not even close. The house to my north is roughly 100 and some feet away. It's not like I'm trying to cram something in like the old part of Breezy Point. There's space. There's space to the left, there's space to the right. There's an entire golf course on the rear. The front is a channel, and I own the lot that is on the channel. And I want to build my house in front of that part that's on the channel. I'm not obstructing any neighbors. There's not a house behind me that I'm blocking. There's not a house on either side that I'm doing anything to. So I believe that what I'm asking is actually a reasonable request, including the setback. The property is unique because of that diamond shape in the back. I'm not changing the character of the neighborhood. It fits, it blends. It actually consistent with the comprehensive plan of Breezy Point. That's what started me coming here. We actually came up here to look at another property and ran across this lot. This lot looked pretty small. A friend of mine used to live out here. He said, well, you might have a hard time because of the size of the lot. Well, then I'm reading through the comprehensive plan, and the plan says to encourage the current owners of these properties to build on them, especially when they have city sewer available to them. So that's why I came here last time thinking, hey, I got this. Jerry Bosak said several times in our last month's meeting that this is something we allow. The Mayor Tom stood up. He listened to what I had to say. He thought it also should pass.
You know, I think that with those two, that's worth something. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to do a vacation rental. I'm on the up and up here. I want to have a place up here in Breezy Point. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jerry, would you provide the staff review?
Sure.
Did you ask if anybody else wants to say
Again, the
anything?
applicant is Scott Krupa.
If anybody else wants to say anything?
The legal description is lots 30 and 29, 30th addition to Breezy Point Estates. We don't have an address for that piece of property, but the address, if it's assigned, would be XXX Channel Heights. The property is zoned R2. The appropriate code sections are 153.32 and 153.120. The applicant is proposing to construct a 1,300 square foot dwelling with a tuck-under garage. The applicant is requesting a variance to construct the dwelling unit on a non-conforming lot and a rear yard setback of 23 feet from the required 30. The property is part of a 1964 plat which precedes any subdivision ordinances. The lot fronts on Channel Heights. The rear butts the traditional golf course to this. There are I think it's Channel Heights condos. I think there's 16 units to the north that get access from the Channel Heights Road. And I believe there's 2 existing dwelling units on Channel Heights also, serviced by Channel Heights Road. The property has access to municipal sewer. Private well would be necessary to construct. The proposal is proposed to be impervious coverage of 21.2%, which is below the 25%. In your packet is a definition of variance, and typically a variance is illegally permitted deviation is provided by MS 462.357 as it may be amended from the provisions of this chapter as deemed necessary by the Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment in this case is the Planning Commission. When strict interpretation of the ordinance would create practical difficulty and be impractical because of circumstances relating to lot size, shape, topography, or other characteristics of the property. And when the deviation from the ordinance with any attached conditions will still be in keeping with the spirit and the intent of the ordinance. Variances cannot create a land use not permitted in the zone. I think there are some findings. The applicant intends that the practical difficulty is the irregular shape and size of the lot. There is, it should be noted that there is about 14 feet of grade change from front to the rear of the property, and I think he's trying to deal with that as best as he can. All attempts are being made to design a structure that fits the lot. The property is located in an area zoned for single-family dwellings. It's consistent with the character of the surrounding neighborhood, and the applicant has proposed to use the property in a reasonable manner consistent with the neighborhood. If you choose to deny the variance, the commission would have to make a finding that there is no practical difficulty. If you find that the variance should be approved, you should state that the practical difficulty is caused by the irregular shape of the lot. You should find that there's municipal sewer available The use is consistent with the neighborhood, and the proposed dwelling fits the lot and is designed for the lots. Possible conditions: building permit, obtain placement of the structure on lot to conform with the survey, no rental of property more than 4 times per year, maximum impervious coverage of 25%, and surface water to be directed and collected in rain gardens.
Questions of Jerry?
Are we going to have any speak?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, let's,
They should be speaking during this time, right?
that'll be next.
I just have one, Jerry. It says sewer's available. Does that mean he has to hook it up or? Can he-
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. It says available, so.
We have an ordinance that says if you're within so many feet of the sewer line, you have to hook up. You don't have any choice.
Okay.
So that doesn't have to be a condition then?
No.
Peggy,
No.
I'm fine.
any questions of
No questions.
Michael?
Not understand.
Okay. Public input to this application, would anyone like to get up to and speak? Okay, if you would introduce yourself, please.
My name is Melanie Novak. I'm a resident of the Channel Heights condominiums, and I believe you may have received a letter from the president of the Homeowners Association, Nate Brewer, relating our continuing concern over approving this variance. Before I go any further, I'm a little bit confused about the process here because installation of utilities has already been begun on the lot, so I'm a little concerned that this is already a foregone conclusion. I just want to voice my concern about that. We have a number of objections. Number one being that according to the Breezy Point City Ordinance, if a non-conforming single lot record located within the shoreline shall be considered for a building permit provided that the following can be met, and that is that all structural setbacks and zoning requirements can be met, and they apparently are not, which is why we're here, which is why Mr. Group is here seeking a variance. Excuse me. We do have environmental concerns. There are a number of mature oak trees and a lot of other trees that provide habitat for the wildlife in the area. All of these will probably be permanently removed. The traffic concerns still exists on Channel Heights. It is a narrow road, and especially with construction. I live there full-time, year-round, and the road gets to be somewhat impassable in the winter when the snowplow makes its one pass. There are parking insufficiencies because of the narrow nature of the road itself. So I just wanted to make those objections known and ask that you strongly consider the intent, the integrity, and the spirit of the city ordinances that are identified in conjunction with the DNR requirement, that we maintain what the DNR constitutes as Northwood's character, because that will change the atmosphere around Channel Heights and the golf course and the channel itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
A few comments on what she had to say. I'm Scott Rupa. The utilities that were started out there is I did contact Spectrum and let them know that their cable box was not on the property line. It was towards the middle of the property, and they took it upon themselves to take and start construction to move that off to the side. That cable has nothing to do with me.
As far as the setbacks, that little triangle, I don't think is a big deal. And I hope you don't think it's a big deal either. I mean, if I had to, the house could be redesigned, not to my liking, not to what the 26-foot wide would be. But it's not the setback that's the main problem here. It's the lot size. As far as the trees, the house we have right now, my wife loves trees. And she made me keep every single tree that I didn't need to take down to build the house. I'm not gonna go in there and clear out the trees, but I'm gonna go in there and clear out the trees that it's gonna take to build the house. Now, because a neighbor doesn't like that trees are gonna be removed to build a house, what do they have to take my rights away as a property owner to remove my trees? I heard this last month too at the meeting, and Tom, the mayor, stood up and said, they can't dictate what trees are to be taken down. I mean, I feel bad that they love the trees and they're not going to be there. As far as the traffic and the traffic during construction, my goal is to build this place over this coming winter. That's not going to happen now because it's getting too late in the season. So yes, there's going to be traffic from construction next summer. Not because of what I wanted to do it this winter. And as far as the narrow road, that road was not put in there to service that condo. That road was put in there to service the property owners along the road. And all the property owners paid for that road, not just the condo, they all did. And the same with the sewer line. I have a lot that has 2 stubs into it, I'm only using 1. But they were all paid for, they were all assessed and paid for. I just want to reiterate that, you know, as an owner of property, the property owners do have rights to their own property.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jeff Johnson, representing White Birch. Same as last month, I just wanted to point out that allowing them to build closer to the golf green will tend to get more golf balls, certainly in their yard, hopefully not in the windows, but there's potential for that to happen the closer you get to that golf green. As I said last month, I myself am not a very good golfer, and so I quite frequently go beyond. So I just wanted to point that out again, and then I'm interested on the point made about the buildable lot or not that the lady brought up from Channel Tech about the ordinance that you already have in place. And so I'm curious if there's been discussion on that yet or what the, I didn't see that in Jerry's notes as far as whether that's a thing or not. So thank you. And we do have a lot. If you wanted to build on a golf course, we do have a lot. We can tell you.
Is it on the channel?
It is not on the channel.
Well, that's why I'm here.
Neither is your lot.
The line across the street there.
Joe, all conversations need to
Yeah.
be directed to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I just have a quick question. What is the
Have the
elevation?
microphone?
Sorry. What is the elevation of the lot number 29? Does that encroach upon being a bluff or not? I know the one lot was 16 feet, but I'm not sure if there's a higher elevation on lot 29.
Okay. Number one, the bluff has to be a riparian lot. This lot that the house is being proposed on is not adjacent to the water. So therefore, it does not qualify as a bluff.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Tracy?
I have a question about that. I thought a riparian lot had more to do with the distance from the water.
No, it has to be on the water, and it has to have a certain elevation within a certain amount of feet in order to qualify as a bluff. This does not
I
qualify
got a
as a
side
bluff.
question, because I had to fight the bluff thing, and our lot does not go to the water.
And I appreciate that. The definition are riparian lots.
Did you win the issue?
We compromise.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Regarding the golf course, they've been using that property. If you see where it says where the mow line is, they're into that property at least 30 feet. So for the last however many years, since that green has been built there, they've been charging the public to come onto my lot and golf. They put the green there. They knew the property lines, maybe not this guy, but the guy before him, knew the property line was there. They chose to put that green there. Now, I'm choosing to go for a variance to put my house there. If a golf ball goes through my window, well, isn't that my problem? It's not his. Even though he is a bad golfer, he might feel bad that he did it, but still, it's my problem. I'm not concerned about golf balls going through my windows. That's all, I guess all I have there. Thank you.
Thank you. If there is no other public input, I will close the public hearing and move to our next agenda item, which is official action on this application. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move that the application be accepted because I do find that there's practical difficulties beyond the control of the applicant.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'd second it.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Roger?
Could we add the house to be built as per plan as one of the conditions, or we can't do that?
I think one of the conditions is as per site plan.
Placement of structure on a lot shall conform to the survey. It doesn't say it's going to be built to that design, that look.
You can stipulate that it be consistent with the
I just
design submitted.
I just remember one that we approved and it was built it way different.
But if you use the word consistent, it allows for at least minor variations, which
There you go.
always take
Yeah.
place in the construction.
Okay. I'm sure that he'd be agreeable to that. Right, Scott?
Jerry, let me ask you, does Larry's motion incorporate your concern about mentioning the practical difficulty?
I believe so.
Okay.
Isn't part of the practical difficulty in this particular case also, sadly to say, because of our zoning ordinance? In other words, if the zoning ordinance was different, he may not have a practical difficulty there.
Well, that's always the case when people
That's
are
what-
asking for a variance.
variance.
That's my point, and that's maybe why it needs to be looked at.
Again, when it was platted back in, this wouldn't have been in front of any commission.
Part of the problem is dealing with some of these flats that were created for different uses than we have today. And that's one of the reasons why you do have variances, is to deal with some of that pre-existing condition and some of those unique pieces of property.
But we also have a lot of very small lots that don't conform to some of the things in the zoning ordinance, so we're going to have these issues time and time again.
There will always be some lots that will never be buildable.
Right.
And I think you have to deal with those one at a time. Each one is going to be unique. I think the strength of this application is that the structure itself is being built for the lot. Many times we get applicants in who have a house design and find a lot that doesn't fit it at all.
But the lot size is more than double too since last,
In some cases,
no, I mean
In this
this
one.
case.
yeah,
That's a big issue.
right.
Anything else, Peggy?
No.
Larry?
Yeah, since I wasn't here last month, I did look at the information in the packet closely as if I was gonna come, because I didn't know. And when I first looked at that, I found that the applicant was missing a lot of information that I thought was needed. And on the other side, I thought the folks that were opposing it, their arguments were weak at best. So I said I didn't know which way I could go. I think the applicant has, to my satisfaction, cleared up the things that I had concerns with a month ago. And so that's why I say I think there are practical difficulties. He's jumped through a lot of hoops to try to make this thing work. And I would like to see it work.
Tracy?
Mr. Grupa, you mentioned the comprehensive plan encourages development of the lots. There's also a part of the comprehensive plan that talks about maintaining the character of this area, and everybody says, well, what does that mean? And after looking at the lot, I think it would be totally out of place, and I agree with the people that are protesting it. And I think the house that you're designing will be the focal point of that lot and not the surroundings, which I think are important to most of the residents of Breezy Point that want to keep coming up here and living.
Michael?
A lot of discussion tonight, which is always good to hear. You know, we look at, you know, why are we here? It's for the variance. This lot does not meet all the requirements, but that's why the state allows variances. Up to us to decipher should the variance be granted or not. A lot of personal opinions regarding the lot, the trees. The trees could be removed tomorrow, no house be built. That's
Yeah, nothing
the
with
lot.
trees,
You-
yeah.
that- Nothing to do with the trees, so that's a moot point. The road is an existing road. It services a number of residentials there. To have another residential, I don't see that as being an issue. I think that the application is well put together. I'm excited to see that the second lot was secured. It shows, you know, intent to do right. The one thing I want to call out too is we've heard the applicant mention that 26 foot, just to make sure that you all are aware again, 26 foot is a requirement in our building code that it has to meet that requirement. So the application is fitting a lot of our things. There's two things, the lot size and the 7-foot variance. Both of those, which I believe are not caused by the current owner. It was from before. It was from the previous plat. There's no more land to secure. You can't go purchase anything more next to this lot. So I think, in my opinion, the motion on the floor sounded sound and logic.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passed. We will move to open forum number 2. Would anyone like to speak during open forum number 2?
The issue that the lady brought up about the non-conforming lot was never addressed. Could I hear what that was about? Is that not an issue? Apparently you guys didn't even address it, so I'm just curious. Is that not a thing in this particular instance, or I'm just curious what happened?
Well, the variance was for a non-conforming lot from the required square footage. Typically, practice has been that if a lot is serviced by sewer and the property owner can meet setbacks. They can build on it no matter what the size is, as long as they can meet setbacks in the 25% impervious coverage requirement. That has been practice here. This specific request was for a variance from the rear yard setback, and that brought into play the non-conforming lot size. You need more?
I don't know, I guess not.
Anyone else? If not, I will close public forum number 2. Ask if there's any other items for the agenda. Jerry, Patrick? Anyone? If not, meeting is closed.
Very good.